Hey, Dr. Toni, Dr. Toni Coaches. So glad you're here with me today. I help the busy leaders and busy professionals of our world really create meaningful balance in their lives so that they can thrive, they can make a deep impact, and they don't have to sacrifice what matters most to them. Today, I want to hop on and talk about something that's really important that's so often glazed over and misunderstood, and that's really understanding comparison. And that comparison truly is the thief of joy. Now, I know President Theodore Roosevelt is kind of coined with creating this quote and has said this many, many eons ago. And I'm going to bring it back to the forefront because you may have even seen it on social media and let it glaze over you or be like, oh, yeah, that looks nice. But listen, allow this just for a few moments. We'll make it quick today. For a few moments to be a part of your experience about how important this is. When I first heard this quote, comparison is the thief of joy, I really wasn't super on board. I kind of let it glaze over. I didn't think too deeply in it. I was like, oh, that sounds nice, but I don't know. Because I compared a lot. I compared myself to others to figure out what was right. I compared myself to others to figure out what would be considerate so I could appease everyone or as many people as I possibly could try to appease. I would try to appease. I really wanted to do what I thought I should do, and so I would compare based on what other people were doing and what other people were presenting. And so I was essentially living a life of a ton of comparison without even realizing how much it was stealing my joy. I mistook comparison as being the same thing as observation and adaptation. But I was wrong because we do need to observe and we do need to be able to adapt. But that's not at the expense of our core values. That's not at the expense of questioning our worth or our enoughness. To stop comparing yourself isn't to stop observing. It's not to stop adequately taking in information and making informed decisions. That's not what this means at all, okay? To stop comparing yourself so that it doesn't rob you of your joy is really to stop looking outside of yourself to define your enoughness, if we just boil it down, okay? And since I've shifted my perspective around this, I have felt so much more joy. Unfortunately, I've also found that most people that I work with are in the boat now that I was in back then. And that's around this challenge of like needing to compare themselves, feeling like they should be comparing themselves or comparing themselves and not even realizing how much they were comparing themselves. And that ultimately makes them feel bad about themselves or convinces them that they need to do different, or do more and be more in some way. And this constant comparison, it leads people, amazing, well-intentioned people, to constantly feel like they don't measure up, to constantly feel like they have to push and hustle and sacrifice and strive. And that happens even when they look like super successful people on the outside. So this may resonate with you just like it did with me back then. My question for you today, if any of this connects with you, is are you allowing comparison to be the thief of your joy? And if so, how might you be willing to just begin to shift your perspective here so that you can welcome and experience more joy into your life like you want and like you deserve? It's going to help you and it's going to help everyone around you too, because you're going to show up differently. I can almost guarantee it. Okay? If you want help connecting more about what's bringing you joy and how you can more deeply connect with joy and welcome it into your life and stop the constant comparison, feel free to click on the link below, connect with me, and we can see if I can support you. All right? But either way, ask yourself, stop and pause. Am I allowing comparison to be the thief of my joy? And if so, am I willing to shift my perspective a bit so I can welcome more joy into my life?